Now it's funny what you have on your doorstep, and most people go past it every day without even realising what it was. The Jules guides in his London walks, he takes great pride in his points for street furniture, including the old horse troughs, and there's not many of them left now. But when you get further out in the country, these are very rare indeed. The Metropolitan Drinking Fountain and Cattle Trough Association. I believe this was a charitable institution. I will do some more research and I will add a voiceover here. But I just thought you'd like to see that. This is probably quite a rare survivor. And it's sitting in the crossroads by the Horse and Groom at Polgate, near the sea.
Well, you could have knocked me over with a feather when I found out that these were not anywhere near as rare as I thought. There's 31 survivors in East Sussex alone. So shows how much I know, doesn't it? But the Metropolitan Drinking Fountain charity was founded in around 1859, and it was meant to provide supposedly reliable source of water for the masses. And yes, it started in London. All these things went up all over London. And then the cholera epidemic started. And a gentleman called John Snow investigated the drinking fountains, and he found that the source of the contamination and the illness was them. And so he started things rolling to get proper water treatment work, so the fountains did then become acceptable for people to drink. And they joined together with another organisation in, I think it was about 1867, something like that, maybe a little bit later, to form the Metropolitan Water Fountain and Cattle Trough Association, and these things just spread around the country. I wonder if those days people walked up to him and said, "You know nothing, John Snow." The other famous person at the time, of course, was Mr. Bazalgette, who started building the London sewers.
Look, it's so early, the moon's still out. There it is. Sorry for the shaky hand. Well, I'm out early again. Mr. Sun hasn't even risen yet, look at that. Where am I today? Well, I'm looking at what is now known as Wannock House. There we are. At one time, this was the Wannock Hotel, and this was the entrance to the famous Wannock Gardens, which used to be one of the prime attractions in this part of South East Sussex. In actual fact, Southdown used to run open-top buses out here, right the way through to Jevington, and short journeys that terminated here. I can remember coming out of Eastbourne as a kid on the top of an open-top bus and getting off here. Coach tours used to come, and there were some lovely tea gardens here, and we used to come for attractions such as the famous water otter, which was a giant kettle. And I seem to remember the three statues here, the wise monkeys: hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And then of course there was the rocket ship to the moon. We stood in it, put a sixpence in, and it flashed lights and rattled about a bit. But we loved coming over here. And then in 1969 it all shut and is now a housing estate.
It's the lovely model village they had there. This is a postcard that my parents actually sent to my gran and granddad once. It seemed to me that this fair was built with bits and pieces of old tin and scraps and goodness knows what. That's what we were led to believe. And I think you'll find the gentleman kneeling down in the picture was the chap that built it all and kept it running. Lovely place, as I remember.
It's silly o'clock in the morning, and this is supposedly a backcountry road, and I've seen 2 cars already, but I'm just zooming in on this. Look at the initials, VR, Victoria Regina. See, we're quite blessed with some of these old ones around these parts. Quite a strong sense of community around here, as exemplified by this interesting design, Wannock Village Hall. And I'm walking along here. Oh, another car. Good grief. That was a taxi. I came out early on a Sunday morning because the road I'm going on frightens me stiff. And they're so busy. I think that goes down through to Mill Close, but I'm just looking at this survivor here. We've got one this side, and there's one the other side, and the decaying material tells you this has been here for quite a while. One of the old Southdown bus stops. I think there's one of the local community buses comes down this road now towards Jevington. I'm going to cross over the road and take a walk along. Here's the other bus stop I was talking about. Now heading in towards Wannock Glen. And again with Wannock Gardens. This was a very popular attraction in its day. There were some lovely tea gardens up here and woodland walks. Oh, that's an interesting. It's an interesting garage here. I bet that's been there for a while. Looking at that timber, I can hear water, but I'm not going to be so rude as to walk into somebody's garden to find out where it's coming from. The building here called the Thatched Cottage. I can't. You can just see part of it above that high fence there. I don't know if I can get a better view of it, but this is this mixture of old and new as the 1930s, etc., encroached upon the village of Wannock, and the attractions gradually, I suppose, just got starved out in a way. But the only way I can look at it. There's one of the older buildings though. That's rather nice. What do you say? Georgian maybe? George the Fourth, that is. George the Third? Who knows? Wannock Lodge, that building is. Now, as well as all these lovely tea rooms and that, you go back another 100 or 2 years and there was a watermill here. And you've got this house here called Broadwater, and there were strawberry fields. I don't know if this is a lawn that's built on maybe what was part of the old mill pond. I think there's some water behind it, but it's a private property and I can't go in there. But over there I suppose is roughly where the old water mill was, but it was replaced in about 1826 by a new one built by Joseph Seymour, and he also built the current Polgate windmill that has been restored. There's got to be some water there. I can hear some ducks fighting. Now, there used to be a statue here, she stood outside the Wannock Hotel, and she was supposed to be over 300 years old. It disappeared and was found a few years ago apparently in an antique shop in Brighton, and it was rescued by a family whose name I believe is Turner, that used to run a bakery in the area, and so it sort of returned to its roots, as it were, and they now keep it safely under lock and key. But anyway, this is what is left of Wannock village now, absorbed into the suburbia of Eastbourne and Polgate. And let's take a look further up the glen. As you can see, I'm deep in woodland now, further up the glen, and I'm here in Filching, and at the entrance to Filching Manor. Now, we're on the South Downs Way. This is quite interesting, this here. And the lion on the top. Presented by... Oh, interesting. Unfortunately, with bits of graffiti on it. I don't know what it was for. Presumably to do with the Queen either passing or a Silver Jubilee. And there's a stone laid here. In the year 2000 AD. Oh. I say I have to be careful not to go too close. I hope they won't mind me just walking quickly up the road and taking a quick look in at Filching Manor. This is one of the oldest buildings around here, and that front door, so I was given to understand many years ago, is solid oak, and it's the same age as the building, and that dates back to 1450. The Fox Hubbard family, many years ago, Paul started a motor museum here, and they have a complete Bluebird K3 of the Campbell family, speed record people, and an electric Bluebird. And it's quite strange because many years ago a friend of mine who owned a model railway shop offered me a box of die casts because he didn't really sell them. He wanted 20 quid for it, but I told him it was worth a lot more than 20 quid. And he said, it's no interest to me. He said, if you don't come in tomorrow with 20 quid, I'm going to put it in my children's box, 10 and 20 pence a time. So I managed to scrape together the 20 quid. And among the things in the box was a complete, absolutely mint box corgi model of the Bluebird Land Speed car. And I sold it to Paul Fox Hubbard for £35. God, forgive the engine noise, but this road is too narrow for me to safely park and walk. But we're looking over there now, we're at the top end of Wannock Glen, Gibby's Cottage. That was the site of the famous Gibby's Tea Rooms. Again, another popular attraction and it looks like the sun is beginning to shine on the trees in the top there. Now we're going to go up past the old chalk quarry, and I'm going to make my way to Jevington through a road which absolutely fills me with dread. I'll see you when I get to Jevington. Forgive the engine noise, but this road is too narrow for me to safely park and walk. But we're looking over there now. We're at the top end of Wannock Glen, Gibby's cottage. That was the site of the famous Gibby's tea rooms. Again, another popular attraction, and it looks like the sun is beginning to shine on the trees in the top there. Now we're going to go up past the old chalk quarry, and I'm going to make my way to Jevington through a road which absolutely fills me with dread. I'll see you when I get to Jevington. Well, I made it through that stretch of road unscathed. Just in time, because as soon as I pulled up here, an ambulance went through going the other way. Now I'm in Jevington, which in the 19th century and possibly starting in the 18th century was one of those estate villages, and it belonged to the Duke of Devonshire. And just before the tail end of the 19th century, he sold it to one of the foremost jockeys of the Victorian era. Though I think now everything's been parcelled off and most of these places are in private ownership, but racehorse training still carries on in the area, and if you look at that over there, it gives you a clue. There we go. I don't know if you've just heard that horse whinny. But these houses are all made of the local flint and brick, and probably are all very similar age, if the truth is known. Although that one there, looking at the pitch of the roof, I wonder if that had been thatched at one time. It does make you wonder. Sometimes these very pitched roofs did have thatch. But anyway, this is the beginning of Jevington, and some lovely properties through here if you've got the money. We'll go and take a look further down now. I don't want to get too close, but they look like old stables units to me. What do you think? Now there's a place we used to frequent some years ago when I was young and fit, and we used to walk across the downs from Eastbourne. We'd have a pint here, and then we'd head on to Alfriston and have another drink or two there. 400 years old, the 8 bells. The dawn chorus is beginning in earnest now. You see the sun rising here. Jevington is in one of those things you call a dry valley. I remember from my geography years ago, there was never a glacier here or a river. It's just one of those depressions, I suppose you could call it. Horses are grazing in the field, and what a lovely place to have a church. Look at that. St Andrew's Church, Jevington, is a Saxon church. Parts of it, some of the oldest in the area, and it has a 14th century font. There are Commonwealth war graves here. I hope I don't set any alarms off, but I have a feeling we probably won't be able to get in here. No, that's a great shame, but perfectly understandable. Perfectly. It's this lovely, well kept garden of remembrance here. There are Commonwealth war graves, and somebody's tried that door by the looks of it. I've got to do it, haven't I? I've got to do it. It's marked. This is slightly more unkempt here. Old building next to it. I wonder if that's the new rectory. Anyway, we just look around the sides and oh yeah, you can tell there has been some rebuilding over the years. Look at the shape of those stones there above that window at the bottom. You can tell that. The sun's just beginning to shine on the tower. Lovely. I'm going to getting to that time of year again when the grass is wet in the mornings, but I wanted to come up here to get a better look at that doorway, and I can't really get far enough away, but there you are. A lovely window above it. So nice and peaceful. Can you hear that bird calling in the distance? No idea what it is. Anyhow, let's take a wander a bit further round and let's see what we can find. There is stained glass here. Difficult to tell, but it looks like the usual designs, the apostles. I seem to be getting attacked by all sorts of things. There we have some more stained glass, but the thing I've come mainly looking for here is this. I wonder if you know what this is. If you don't, I'll tell you in another video segment. But suffice it to say, this is a very unusual one. It was originally built as...
At this point on the original video, I seem to have been talking gibberish, but you'll see that the gate opens through a full 180 degrees. You unfasten it one side, you swing it right the way round the 180 degrees and fasten it on the other. And that shows you quite clearly how it was designed to stop any livestock or other undesirable objects from entering into the church premises behind you. Again, I'll explain a bit more about what they were a little later on. But as you'll see, 180 degrees on this gate.
I'm not sure if this is a replica of the original, because this was one of the very rare ones. It was built with a style. And I'm not sure if what's down there at the bottom is actually part of the old style. But I know it was refurbished in the 1930s. But as I say, more information on that later. I'll tell you now, there's only 6 of them left. They were exclusive to East Sussex, invented by a gentleman who I believe lived in Battle. And all 6 of them are within 10 miles of Lewes. Now, I don't know if this is the tree I'm looking for, but apparently there is a rare serpentina elm tree in the churchyard here. I'm not sure that this is an elm even. No, it's not. So it's not what I'm looking for. What a silly boy. This is more like it, but I don't think it's the serpentina. But then what do I know about trees? I don't pretend to be an expert, and I do rely on folk to say to me, look, you know, you've just talked a load of old tosh. Although, please do it nicely. I'm always happy to be corrected. What a lovely outlook though, look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? See, if I didn't go to these out of the way places at earthly hours of the morning, you wouldn't have a clue, would you? Anyway, onwards. Is this the tree they're talking about? It would help if it had a note on it to say what it was, wouldn't it? But isn't it a lovely tree? Look at that, and the sun shining in the top. I've been very blessed this year with some lovely sunny mornings. One could argue not many, but I can assure you more than last year.
Well, seeing that church notice board, my friend Graham, who runs Naturally Curious UK YouTube channel, do go and have a look. He has a friend, the Reverend David Baker, who is the rector of Jevington, Friston and East Dean. What a lovely parish.
So there we are. St Andrew's Church, Jevington. And because I'm down in the valley, I can see the sun coming up on the sides, but I can't get to that sunrise shot. Not just yet, anyway. I'm just walking down past the old rectory now. Into the main street. Looking across at some cottages, the Hungry Monk cottages, and this was the home of the Hungry Monk restaurant, where it is said that Banoffee pie was invented back in the early 1970s. And if I can just zoom in on that without disturbing anybody else. There you have the blue plaque. And when the Southdown double-deckers used to come out here, they either used to reverse into here, and you see this bit is a bit wider, or it was on that one. I think it was this one here. But you've got to remember that they were only 27 foot long in them days, so wasn't quite as difficult. Got some lovely cottages here. How would you like to live here? Beautiful, isn't it? There's the plaques here. This is an identical one, and I thought it was graffitied, but look, it's identical to the one at Filching Manor. It commemorates the Golden Jubilee of the Queen in 2002. And there's a plaque there. There's another one of those gates, which I'll tell you about eventually. Sue and Nigel Mackenzie, and it was Nigel Mackenzie that apparently invented Banoffee pie right here. There we are.